Hello everybody, welcome to Chips Away, Burton-on-Trent and Derby. We are currently at our workshop in Derby, Weatherby Road in Derby, which is where we operate from. We did used to have a workshop in Burton, but we've closed that down. We cover Burton on a mobile basis. So we run a van in the Burton area. Someone's beeping just as I start recording. And then we do all of our bigger local repairs in our workshop here in Derby. So today's job that we're going to be showing you is this prestigious 2014 Vauxhall Mokka, which has got some paint failure on its tailgate. So I'm going to show you the damage that we're working with. I'm not sure. I think it's been painted before, whether it's had a new tailgate on it or not, I don't know. Or whether it's factory paint. I think it's been painted before, but we'll take a closer look when I'm that side of the camera, and then we're going to do a step-by-step process so you guys can see just how much hard work and brilliance goes into what we do here that makes us the best smart repair team in the world. So here we go. As I said before, absolutely top shelf, top of the range Vauxhall Mokka 2014 in a beautiful vibrant blue colour, and this is what our customer has asked us to rectify for them. Now when I picked this car up this morning, because we do a collection and delivery service as well for our customers, just to take all the faff out of getting your car repaired, just make note of that for anybody who wants to use our services. There was a small crack in the paint. We estimated this from images, and I wasn't sure whether we could maybe put an input of what we saw in the first instance to see what we're working with. I wasn't sure whether there was some sort of filler or some crack in some old material that was on this tailgate, but it turns out it's just paint failure. There's nothing else on it. Look, the paint's just peeling off it. So we're going to have to be careful of how far this paint is going to track back. Hopefully it's got some adhesion somewhere. Usually when the paint's failing and flaking off like this, it'll only peel off to a certain point, and then we'll get to a point where the paint is actually adhering to the substrate underneath. So first and foremost, we're just going to pick off all the little bits around the edges to start with, so we can get it to a point where it's not continuing to peel back. And then we're going to get in here with some sandpaper, get it primed up, and we'll go through the whole process of what we do to get this looking as good as new. First thing you should always do before you start any repair is check the colour that you're working with, just to make sure that you've got all the materials that you need to finish the repair before you start. Because the last thing you want to do is to start your repair and then you've not got the paint to paint it. So we know that we're good on the colour. I've already checked, we've painted this colour loads of times. We have plenty of it in stock. So first things first, we're going to start sanding this area down to get to a point where we can start and put some primer on it. Tools that we're going to use for the job: it's a Mokka 6-inch DA sander. Sandpaper that we've got on is a P320 grit sandpaper. This is an electric DA, Mokka 5.0, a lot better than the pneumatic ones because they save you a ton of electricity. First job is to protect the glass, so we don't damage it while we're sanding. So that's the initial sanding done. As you can see, you know, where all the primer was, there's nothing else in it, no filler or anything like that. That looks like, you know, factory e-coat. I would say that this car's probably had a new tailgate on it at some point in its life and it's just not been prepped properly, or, you know, unless this is a common problem with this colour. I mean, some colours out of the factory, they do fail. But I don't know. Either way, there's nothing too bad going on here. As you can see, where it's sort of started to feather back here, where it's not flaking back anymore. So whether this is just an isolated area, I think it is, generally speaking. Once you start feathering back, then you know the rest of it's good. Just need to get in under this edge of the tailgate glass by hand and get some sandpaper in there, you know, just to prep all that area in there. Now, I know that best practice would be to remove the tailgate glass, remove the trims, remove this, remove that, remove the other, you know, and, you know, repaint the whole bloody car to sort this little bit of paint damage out. Now, that's the correct method and the best practice to do it. Not everybody wants to pay to do that, which is fine. You know, we can do it either way, but, you know, a lot of our customers are working to a budget, and at the end of the day, it's a 2014 car, and, you know, I'm of the opinion that cars are consumable pieces of equipment. At the end of the day, they're all going to end up in a scrapyard. People just want them looking nice. They don't want to be spending a fortune on them every time they need something doing wrong. So we scratch that itch for our customers. So anybody who wants to, you know, talk trash about how we're doing it, you know, we work the way that we work. So shut up. There we go. Get the leftover 320 disc. Make sure you're getting it right under there, because if there is still some paint flaking under that edge there, we're going to be knackered before we start. So it's very important that we get rid of all that failing paint before we start putting more paint on. Now 320 is a fine enough grit for us to be able to go straight over with our primer. Sometimes, you know, if we have to use a bit more of an aggressive sandpaper, we'd have to go through more aggressive. The lower the number, the more aggressive the sandpaper. And as the numbers get higher, this is a 320. So if then we go to P500, that means it's going to be an even finer grit. Cheers, face Bruce. So there we go. That is the initial prep work done. Now what we're going to do with this car, with this repair, is do a smart repair on it. We're not going to paint the whole tailgate. We're just going to do a localised smart repair, and it's going to look brilliant when we're finished with it, you know, and that's all the customer wants. So next part of the process is decide where we want to go to on this panel. Now I'm thinking we can go, so we've obviously got to paint this section here, we'll mask this trim off, and then we've got a nice swage line here, profile, where we can lose the edge of our paint. So we've got some, just stand there for 1 second. These are what we use to prep and key up the rest of the paint for paintwork, for the paint and the clear coat. As you can see, tailgate there. So we're going to paint down to around here. Now when we put a blend in, it's always best to blend on the smallest possible area. So the paint goes on in 2 stages. So we're going to put a grey primer on this, a grey primer on here, and then we're going to mix up our colour, and we're going to put our colour on first and just go a bit bigger than the primer, and we have to sort of flick the colour out. You'll see as we're doing it, we're going to flick the colour out. Did you see that spider going up there? We're going to flick the colour out, and then after the colour's gone on, we can see that it's all uniform and it's blended in nicely to the original paintwork. Then we go over it with a clear coat. And we're going to clear coat in the middle of this door handle, because we've only got a very small area to do a small blend there and a small blend there, and then we can polish it up once we've finished. We could put a blend in the tailgate here, but you know, what's the point when we can just, you know, use the handle area to our advantage, just so we've got a very minor, and we've even got a swage line here in that tailgate for us to do our blend on. So let's continue. Very important you get all in your edges, which is probably what the last person who fixed this tailgate didn't do, which is why the paint started falling off. And then we can polish all this back once we've finished. So that's all the prep work done with the 800 sandpaper. As you can see, there's no shiny bits left. Basically all you need to do is just make sure that the whole surface is nice and dull and sanded up, keyed up, so our new products are going to stick to it, no dramas. And then for the blend area, we're going to finish where we're going to finish our clear coat. We want an even finer grade sandpaper, 2000, because when you've put a blend in the clear coat, what you do is you bake it all off, and once you're finished, you polish it back. So the finer scratches to polish back, the better. So there we go, as you've just seen on the camera, that's all of the initial prep work done for this car. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to clean it down with some solvent degreaser, get it all masked up for primer, and then, you know, we'll probably do that on fast speed. There's nothing really interesting to show on that. It's just a case of cleaning it up, masking it up, getting the primer on and get it baking, and then we'll go through the paint mixing process and how we find the colours on the car and how we use the equipment that we've got to then mix the correct colour for the car. So stand by. So the next stage of the repair process, as you can see, I've got it all masked up. Just the area in question is just going to be ready for some primer. Now this primer, believe it or not, is actually water based, and this is exclusive to the chips away repair process. I mean, you wouldn't think that a water-based primer would be any good sticking to bare metal. but it actually is. I mean, we give lifetime warranty on all of our repairs, and I've used this for probably about 10 years, and I have never had a car come back and tell me that this paint is falling off. So I don't know what's in it, but it's brilliant, and it's good for the environment as well. Well, I don't know if it's good for the environment, but it's better than solvent, and it works really good. So 3 coats of this primer, and then we'll get it baking. So that's first coat on, just using a heat gun. Make sure not to get too close, because I think the air that comes out of this is about 500 degrees. It's like a hairdryer on steroids. I mean, I tried to dry my hair with it once, and obviously look what happened to me. So that's first coat on, that's now dry to the touch. I'm just going to repeat that process 2 more times, and then we'll get a lamp on it and, you know, give it a good bake for about 10 minutes just to make sure it's properly cured. So we'll zoom back to fast speed while I do that, because you'll fall to sleep otherwise. Okie dokie, so next stage of the repair process, so we've got the primer on the damaged area there, that's just cooling off, it's been on the lamp for 10 minutes, so that's properly dry. Now it's just a case of letting that cool down and getting the paint mixed correctly and getting the right colour which we need. So a couple of ways we can find the correct paint for the car. Now, on most cars, only a couple of manufacturers don't display the paint codes, I think Mazda being one of them, whether they've stopped putting paint codes on, but you'd always struggle to find a paint code on a Mazda. But pretty much all other manufacturers, you will find the paint code for your car somewhere on the car, whether it's in the door shutter, the bonnet, in the boot, you know, sometimes depends. Just because we've got the paint code for the car doesn't mean that that's going to be the correct colour, because there's so many different paint schemes out there and so many different variants of paint. I mean, some factories use one brand of paint where this car was painted, but then the same car could be painted with the same colour. They use a different brand of paint. So there's a lot of variations in getting the best possible match for any given colour. Now we can put the paint code for this car colour into our software, and there's probably about 10 different shades of it, which is where this piece of kit, which is called a spectrophotometer, pretty expensive piece of kit, so I don't want to drop it. They're a few grand, but what it does is it will take 5 readings off of the paint which is already on the car, and it will throw up the best possible match that we can get. So best way to do this is to take a reading off the closest area where you're going to be painting to, because there's no point taking a reading off the bonnet when we're painting the tailgate, because if this quarter panel's been painted before at some point in its life, then the colours are going to be marginally different. Or if the bonnet's been painted at some point in its life, should I say, then that could be a very slight different shade. So we're going to polish up the area and then take a reading with our spectrophotometer. It's important to polish it before you take a reading, because there will be like a film of dirt and grime which is on the paintwork, which will just make it a little bit more tricky for this piece of equipment to read the paint. So you want to make sure the paint is all nice and clean and shiny and dry to get the best possible match. 5 good readings, which is what we want. Now, I'll just show you quickly where you'll find the paint code on this Prestige Mark. And it is actually displayed under the bonnet on this little plate here. I don't know whether you can read that, but there's 3 letters on there. GQM, Golf Quebec Mike, which is the paint code. So what we want to be finding when we plug our Spectro in to our software is that it's going to pick up the correct paint code. Sometimes it will throw up some paint codes from different manufacturers as well, but plug that in, have a slurp. There we go. I'm not sure how clear you can see that screen. Let's try and get a little bit closer. So it's telling us that it's a metallic paint, which is correct. Excuse the mess of our equipment, but you know, we work in a dirty body shop. And there we go. Whether you can see that or not. Top of the line, the lower number the better. Vauxhall, or Opal, which is the European name for Vauxhall. Vauxhall GQM, and it's telling us we need the darker flop variant. So that's what we're going to mix. Easy peasy. Let's have a quick look what's in that paint. What tinters are in there? There's a special effects tinter in there, which is on our Schemies H07. I think that's called Blue Flash. Just gives it that vibrant blue colour. Blue Flash just there. And I think we're going to need, to be on the safe side, 80 grams of paint for that car. So that's it. It makes it very easy for us, this software. We just have to tell the computer how much paint we want to mix, and we do it by eye. You know, we've painted so many cars, we sort of know how much paint we're going to need per job, and it tells us the amounts that we need of each tinter. Now all this in this row here, that's all different colours, and in this column it's the amounts that we need of each colour. So first colour that we need is a medium pale blue, and we need 28.06 grams. It measures it to the 0.0 of a gram. So we'll get the paint cup on the scales, and then we'll get it mixed up, and you can see how the magic happens. So this cup here is just basically a plastic liner. It's a throwaway, called PPS cups. It's just a throwaway liner which we mix our paint in. It just keeps everything clean, rather than using, you know, an old-fashioned mixing cup where you have to strain your paint and stuff like that. You know, these probably aren't great for the environment. But and then the lid that goes on, I don't know whether you can see that on the camera, but it's got like a very fine filter. So when that sits on top of your spray gun, the paint will actually be filtered before it's sprayed onto the car. They're about, I don't know, maybe £1 each, but well worth the money to keep the paintwork nice and clean. So let's get 80 grams of Boraque Blue, Vauxhall Boraque Blue. Let's get 80 grams of the paint mixed up. So first order of business, 28.06 grams of medium pale blue. Just turn the compressor off quickly so it doesn't interrupt our time together. This is what we keep our paint in. We use a paint scheme called Nexa, but it's Chipsway branded, but it's Nexa Auto Colour. Premium paint scheme. We don't have hardly any issues with colour, and it, you know, we've always got on well with it. You know, it's pretty expensive stuff, but does the job. So 28.06 grams. As you can see, the numbers going up on the scales. Get it as close as you can. It doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. 25, 26, 27, what was it? 28.06. 28.11, a bit too much. Trick of the trade. A little bit of tissue paper. You can just drag a little bit out. HO7, this is the Special Effects tinter, blue flash. And the cumulative amount which it gives us, so there's 16 grams of this, but in total we want to be seeing 44.10 on the scales. Perfect. Next one, Brilliant Blue, is number 53, up to 47.72, 47, 70. This is just a tone controller basically. I don't really know what it does, to be honest, but it pretty much goes in every paint that we use. I think it just helps how the colour sits. I don't know. 50.71. I don't know what it does. Maybe someone could let us know. I'm a panel beater by trade, but paint spraying's pretty easy. 50/70, that's close enough. Bit of black. 52/32. 51, 52, 30, close enough. Bit of white. 52/48. Maybe a little bit too much of that. Let's try and get a little of that out. There we go. This is called transparent magenta. You wouldn't expect there to be so many different colours go into a blue paint. I mean, look at it as it's sat there now on the scales. You wouldn't think that that is going to make the colour that we need, but trust me, it is. 54.90. $54.90. Now, some silver. 58.31. Another different sort of blue. 62.36. 35, close enough, and then another shade of blue. So how many different blues? I think there's 4 different blues in this blue. So this goes all the way up to 80 grams. So easy peasy. 70 grams. 79. 80. Perfect. And then the last thing we want to add is 10% base coat thinner, which is basically just water, deionized water. So we want 8 grams of water, 8-ish grams of water. So there we go. Put the liner sits in this hard cup like that. As you can see how it is at the moment. And then we'll mix it up. See, it starts to change as it goes. Need to make sure you give it a really thorough mix, just to make sure all the colours get mixed together properly. Scrape the sides of the line up, just so you get every bit of every colour mixed in properly to the paint. And as you can see, it's looking somewhere close. Put our filter lid on. Screw that on nice and tight. Job done. Now this is nice and dry. We're going to sand this all back, get it all keyed up, and then we will get the car masked up, ready to put the paint on. Right, so there we go. The car is now ready to paint. We are actually going to paint this car al fresco style, outdoors. And we can show you, you know, what sort of results we're able to get out on the field and make this car look as good as new. Make the customer very happy. So, equipment we're going to be using. So we've got the paint mixed that we mixed up earlier. This is the spray gun that we're going to be using. This is an S Iwata LPH80, which is probably like one of the smallest spray guns you can get, which is perfect for this job. Basically how it works, you put your paint on the gun, twist it on. It's a gravity fed spray gun, so basically the paint is just now dripping into the gun. When we plug our airline in, then, you know, we'll atomize the paint. You'll see it when it's going on the car. So that's all we need. Spray gun with the paint. The panel's all been cleaned down with solvent, so there's no contaminants left on the panel, no silicons, no grease, no nothing, which is going to stop the paint from sticking to the car. And just before and during applying the paint, we use one of these, which is a tack cloth. It's like a sticky, I don't know whether it's got some sort of wax or something on it, some sticky substance, I'm not quite sure, but it's sticky. And basically all it does, excuse our dry, all it does is just remove any surface dust before we apply our paint, and we wipe it with this between every coat to keep it as clean as we possibly can. Obviously we're working out in the elements now, so you know we can only do our best with keeping it as clean as possible, but you know there's things we can do after we've painted the car, you know, just to make sure that it looks brilliant and there's no contaminants left in the paint. So here we go. So that's what it looks like after the first coat of colour has gone on. Pretty much covered the primer. So we just put like a one wet coat of the paint on to start with, which has covered the primer. And now with water-based paint, you need to put on what's called like a drop coat transition coat, which just helps all the metallics in the paint and the pearlescent colours just to lay down properly to give you a nice uniform finish. So we'll just show you what that looks like. There we go. As you see, I was spraying it in all different directions, so we don't get any. If you keep spraying it in one uniform direction, like straight across the panel, you'll get sort of like blotchiness in the paintwork, in the colour, and it won't sit like uniform. But now you can see how it's like got an indistinguishable finish now, where the colour is actually blended in. And we've got plenty of room just to hit down there with the clear coat to put our blend in. This piece of foam here is specifically for this job. Well, and inside door shuts for people who know what I'm talking about. But you can use it just to do little cute smart repairs like this. And then we'll remove that whilst the clear coat is still wet, just so we don't leave any sort of hard edges. And by the time we've polished it, you won't even be able to see where the paint's finished. That's it. Paint's dry. Let that cool down for a little bit. Mix up some clear coat, and then we'll show you the clear coat going on. So that's it. Ready. Put the clear coat on. So we're using a slightly bigger spray gun this time. This is called a WS300. Same brand of gun. Anesta Iowata. And then for our blend area, fade out thinners for this area just here. So again, just before we do it, remove any dirt and dust off the panel just to try and keep any foreign bodies in the paint to a minimum. 2 coats of clear coat, and then it's going to need about 20 minutes to dry under lamps. So here's the results of our smart repair on the Vauxhall Mokka. It's all baked off now, paint's dry. Just look at the finish on it. Not bad for an outdoor paint job. Just needs a little bit of polishing. There's not really much in the way of dirt in the paint. This is before we've done any polishing. You can see where we've put the blend in there, but we'll get that polished up. Everything looks okay. There's a couple of nibs, whether you can pick that up in the camera. One here, one here, but we'll get a bit of 1500, 2000 on them just to flatten them down. The paint finish on this was absolutely rubbish before we started, so by the time we've polished it up, it'll look as good as new. We've just got to hope the colour looks right. So there we go everybody, this concludes our smart repair on the beautiful Vauxhall Mokka. Colour match looks okay. Never gonna get 100% perfection without blending the adjacent panel, but you know, I don't think you're gonna get much better than that with an edge-to-edge paint job, courtesy of our top of the range paint scheme. But as you can see, those two little nibs that were in the paint have now gone. There's always a slight difference in colour between plastic and metal. It's just the way it is. Same on the other side. But yeah, really happy with that. It's all blended in perfectly fine around the door handle. You see where we foam edged off that edge there. no evidence that we've done a smart repair on this. The rest of the tailgate's been polished up, and that is exactly what our customer asked for, and she'll be over the moon when we take it back. So the service that we've provided on this car, basically what we've done, customer got in contact with us, asked us if we can sort it. The answer was obviously yes. We've got it booked in. Now we've been to the customer's house this morning and picked up her car, brought it into our workshop, got it repaired for her, and then I'm going to drop it back to her now. So a totally seamless, hassle-free service which we've delivered for her. If you're interested in what this sort of repair, smart repairs, cost to that customer, we charged £350 plus VAT to repair this bit of damage here. For transparency, some people will charge a lot more, some people will charge a lot less, but for this particular damage we charge £350 plus VAT. Now this customer works within the NHS, she's an NHS nurse, so we did actually give her a 10% discount. So we did actually charge, I think it was about 390 something quid we charged her. But we know for a fact this is going to be absolutely over the moon when she gets it back. So if any of this video interested you and you'd like to use our services to get a top quality repair, alfresco style, with a lifetime guarantee, all of our details will be in the description box below. If you'd like to, you know, learn any more tutorials about how we go about repairing certain things, I mean, we do a lot of stuff here, big dent repairs, painless dent repairs, just let us know and we can show you the skills that we've got, and you know, we can all learn together. All of our details also are on our big sign outside of our workshop. So thanks again for watching, and we'll be back with another high performance Vauxhall or some other old banger. We do nice cars as well.